And go blue, everybody. Well, Michigan hired Wink Martindale. What does that mean? Also, we'll talk to you about the defensive line coach that we are slated to bring on and more. All coming up next on Michigan Wolverines Live. And we are back for another episode of Michigan Wolverines Live. Today is Tuesday, February 13th, 2024. My name is John Diadamo. You can find me on Twitter at John Diadamo. You can really quick, easy to do that. I'm just going to ask everybody if you can, right? We've got our 133rd show here where we've got an insider, somebody who is deeply entrenched in the Ravens coming in here. But before we do that, I'm going to ask everybody to hit the like button, subscribe to Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football, and share this out there in the world. Take the YouTube link, send it out, social media, Discord chat, whatever, so that we can get this thing really, really rocking here. We have, obviously, a special guest today, and we're going to bring him on now and really kind of get the Ravens' perspective on the hire that just happened with Michigan. So without further ado, we've got Kevin Oestreicher.
There you go.
Ravens Wire, Locked on Ravens. Kevin, thanks for joining Michigan Wolverines Live.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think Michigan got this one right. I know that it wasn't a great end of the tenure in New York with Don Martindale, but from my experience covering him and everything that he brings to the table, I think Michigan is going to be very happy with what he brings here.
Absolutely. So, for those of you who have been living under a rock, there's been some changes on Michigan's defensive staff, given the fact that almost everybody has decided to go to the NFL with either Jim Harbaugh or, in one instance, Jay Harbaugh decided to go with Mike McDonald to the Seahawks. So Sharon Moore had to do something, right? Because he had literally no one on defense. Clinkscale decided he was going up. So Wink Martindale had been discussed for the Cowboys job. And then I think it went to Mike Zimmer. Yeah. I think Mike Zimmer is being talked about. So the fact that Wink Martindale would even consider Michigan after being a huge defensive coordinator at both stops, I think that speaks to the Harbaugh tree continuing, even though Jim Harbaugh isn't even there. Kevin, what do you think he was thinking? I mean, I can't ask you to get inside his head, but I mean, he clearly saw Michigan as an interesting opportunity. So I'd love to just understand that a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, these are the national champions, obviously. So when you're making a jump from the NFL to a college level program, obviously you want to go to a place if you're as accomplished as Don Martindale and you have all that NFL experience. You're not going to settle for just any job, right? And I know that with the ever so shuffling that Michigan's had to do on their staff since Jim Harbaugh went to Los Angeles, this was a perfect opportunity. And it really, all the other coordinator positions across the NFL right now, there are barely any left, if at all. So Martindale was kind of left out of the cycle in terms of getting back in to a defensive coordinator spot. And I would have been pretty shocked if he had taken, I guess, a demotion in position and go back to a positional coach. He's just too accomplished as a defensive coordinator to do that. So you go to obviously one of the top programs in college football. And I think it's a good fit for him because now he has an opportunity to, again, put his own touches on that program and the defense that, was Mike McDonald and then Jesse Minter. And now you have Don Martindale, all Ravens connections. So it's another Michigan to Ravens and Michigan pipeline that I think will start to dry up a tad because Jim Harbaugh's not there anymore, but we're still going to have some Ravens blood within that Michigan organization and that Michigan program.
Absolutely. And, I think it's interesting because you've seen, covering the Ravens, you've seen not only Wink, aka Don Martindale, but you've also seen his proteges, Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter, as they went through and kind of learned from Martindale, learned this system, and they've kind of instituted this 4-2-5 kind of multiple defense at Michigan. So now we've had the proteges. Now we're getting the sensei, right? So walk me through, because obviously we know he is longtime defensive coordinator. He was at Western Kentucky, coached under a guy named Jack Harbaugh. And so that was 20 some years ago. He goes to the Ravens. Kevin, I'd love to just understand like what that was like, obviously as a linebackers coach and then eventually becoming defensive coordinator.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of great linebackers that came and went through Baltimore during Martindale's time as the inside linebackers coach. Obviously, their big first round pick was C.J. Mosley back from Alabama, who he molded. Mosley was already a really good player coming in, but he molded around that. But then you have players like Zach Orr, who actually replaced Mike McDonald as the Ravens defensive coordinator a couple weeks ago. He came into the league as an undrafted free agent, and he was an inside linebacker, played 3 years in the league before his career unfortunately ended due to an injury. But he was an all-pro that last year. And Don Martindale had a huge hand to play in the development of multiple inside linebackers. Darryl Smith comes in as a veteran from Jacksonville, and he was kind of like, in the eyes of many, a washed player, wasn't really, on the back end of his career. He had 2 really, really good seasons in Baltimore under Don Martindale. He gets the promotion to defensive coordinator in 2018. And my thing for the Ravens, if you're their inside linebacker coach, you automatically get the defensive coordinator job, because it has been that way. Martindale was the inside linebackers coach, but before that, it was Dean Pease, and he was the inside linebackers coach. And then Mike McDonald replacing Martindale, he was the inside linebackers coach, and Zach Orr replacing Mike McDonald, he was the inside linebackers coach. So if you want an NFL defense coordinator job, just make sure you're the inside linebacker coach of the Ravens.
Yeah, it's literally an inside linebacker coach pipeline.
Yeah, it's the inside track is becoming the inside linebacker coach. So it's been great to see Martindale's development, and especially when he got into the defensive coordinator role with Baltimore. What was his bread and butter is the blitzing. The blitzing is what Don Martindale is. He lives by it and he dies by it. And I feel like Martindale will maybe have to adjust a little bit, but I think that's part of why he left the Ravens, is because I think Baltimore said, look, we need you to, scale back on this a little bit and play situationally a little more. And Martindale, I think, was probably like, well, this is how I've gotten here. This is what I do. I'm not going to compromise this. And it was a mutual parting of ways. But what Martindale ends up doing is the engage eights. He puts everybody at the line and he does the skies. He's one of the most creative, exotic blitzers that I have ever seen. He puts together these packages. He'll put literally 9 guys up at the line, and he'll send all of them one play and drop all but 3 into covers the next play. He does it. He confuses. And the Ravens defense under Martindale against younger quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, second-year quarterbacks, third-year quarterbacks, they had trouble because his multiple looks, the way that he disguised blitzes, disguised pressures, brought guys off of the edge, it threw guys for a loop seeing it for the first time. So going to a college program, if you can get those Michigan defenders on the same page and running that system effectively, for maybe some of the younger, inexperienced college quarterbacks, it might be a bit of a welcome to college football moment, or welcome, hey, this is this Michigan defense now, because it's a handful to game plan for, and it's a handful to get up to speed as a player in the defense. So some work cut out for those Michigan defenders, but I think it'll be all right once everybody gets it.
So I want to clear up a big misconception. When people heard about this hire, they said, oh, it's just like Don Brown, the most casual take you can possibly imagine. Oh, it's just like Don Brown. Now, let me be very clear, okay? Don Brown was send everybody, every play, practically, no zone whatsoever. He finally was forced to play a little bit of zone at the end. But he was very much a one-dimensional defensive coordinator in that respect. He relied on just the talent being so much that it would overwhelm the opponent, which didn't work against Ohio State and didn't work against Penn State sometimes as well, or Alabama. So therefore, Now you've got a situation where Wink Martindale, yes, he likes to blitz more, but he's still working under the same system, the 4-2-5, that has devastated Ohio State and Washington in those high octane offenses for the last 3 years. So I was looking at like the difference between Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter's blitz percentage versus Wink Martindale's, and Wink Martindale's is higher, right? There's no question about that. He likes to blitz more than the other two do. But he also showed he was capable of adjusting because his blitz percentage went down at the Giants. So therefore, in your opinion, Kevin, it sounds like this is somebody he likes to blitz, but it sounds like there's lots of ways to blitz, number one. And number two, he's capable of shifting how his mentality is.
Yeah, so, and 100% everything you said, I agree with you, because Don Martindale, even though he lives by the blitz and dies by the blitz, I don't mean that in the sense of, well, every single play he's bringing 9 guys and there is no room for anything other than that with Don Martindale. That's not what it is. For Martindale, he adjusts, but there were times with the Ravens, and I agree. With the Giants, he adjusted and the blitz percentage went down, but the Ravens were at the top of the league every single year that Don Martindale was a defensive coordinator, and it wasn't particularly close in terms of the second-place team. And with that, there were games where he got into, he almost fell down the rabbit hole a little too much, where he lost the Ravens a couple games back in 2021 because he decided, in overtime in week 1 against the Raiders. Chicago, he almost lost them that game because he started to blitz every single play, and it was engage 8, and they would do everything with just blitz in those clutch moments. But we saw the adjustment in New York. I'm sure we'll see even more of an adjustment here at Michigan. So it's not like he's going to blitz every play, and that's the be-all, end-all with Don Martindale. But his identity is an aggressive coordinator. He is a more aggressive coordinator than Mike McDonald, a more aggressive coordinator, in my opinion, than Jesse Minter as well. But it's not that those two weren't aggressive. It's not that Minter wasn't aggressive. It's not that McDonald wasn't either. I think they're just more calculated, and Martindale's like, I'm going to trust my guys, and I'm going to trust my guys get there. And if the talent level is there, he can get the most out of it.
So, another thing I read about this, even though it's a similar system, he uses more 5-1-5 looks as well, is what I've read. So it sounds like there might be a little bit more of that, and just some differences from what Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter did. But you're not going to be seeing a wholesale, like, if you're used to Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter, it sounds like, Kevin, you're not going to be seeing a completely different defensive situation in 2024 with Don Martindale, right? Like, it seems like it's going to mostly carry over.
Yeah, it won't be the exact same thing. Obviously, Martindale's going to put his touches on there too, but this is, again, part of the Ravens pipeline, part of that defensive pipeline. And obviously, you talked about it earlier, Martindale, he was the guy, and then McDonald went and was promoted in him. And I think a lot of people in Baltimore are almost kind of bummed out that after McDonald left for Seattle, they couldn't go to Michigan and bring Minter back and kind of do the same thing. Obviously, Minter went over to Los Angeles and followed Jim over there. But yeah, a lot of people in Baltimore are saying, well, let's just take Michigan's defensive coordinator every 2 years. So let's just get that pipeline. We'll send a guy up there. He'll do his thing. We'll bring him back. But no, obviously not with Minter anymore. But it is going to be interesting how Martindale adjusts readjusts. He's been there before, to the college game and everything that goes with it, because I think there is going to be a learning curve for his defense. But I think once everything clicks into place for those guys, it's not like they're putting in a whole new system. It's not like they're bringing in a whole different coordinator and they're going to have to spend, the spring and getting ready for the season, learning a whole new defensive system. There will be nuances here and there that'll be different, that'll have to be adjusted to. But for the most part, Martindale will give them a lot of looks that McDonald had, that Minter had. And I don't think it'll be that big of an adjustment. But obviously, since it's not Minter's defense and he's gone, you're going to have to adjust a little bit.
So it's safe to assume that 300+ pound Mason Graham and 300+ pound Kenneth Grant and Will Johnson, the best cornerback in the country, may do pretty well in this scenario.
I think so. The talent level on that defense is incredible. And again, I think that's honestly probably why Martindale took the job, is because he understands how much talent there is there. And it's not very often that a coordinator position like that opens up at the time it did, right? I think that with everything
Stars
that
aligned.
happens, it did. And I think, look, at this point, Michigan knows that they're going to get a talent pipeline every year. They're going to get recruits and have great recruiting classes. And Martindale understands, him going out there and saying, hey, look, I was the architect of this defense here, and I have had success both in Baltimore and in New York, multiple NFL stops. Come play for me, and I can get you on the fast track, and I can get you acclimated to what an NFL defense is like. I'm sure that'll be a selling point, however long Martindale stays there for recruiting classes in the future.
Yeah, I think he might be one of the only hires capable of keeping Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson, Ernest Hausman all at Michigan. Because he's going to establish the credibility right away. His NFL pedigree, I think, is going to appeal to them because a lot of them are about to head to the draft after this year. And so, combine that with the Champion Circle NIL Collective having one of their best months ever, which they needed to because apparently they were getting offers for 10 times what they made last year at NIL. So, luckily, the national championship happened at just the right time to start getting some of that money going and get the money cannons going.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be good for Michigan this year, I think, to be able to go and have this initial year under Martindale. Because, again, I don't know how long Martindale is there for, but in terms of, how they had to adjust, I think they could have done a lot worse than Don Martindale. And it's no disrespect any other candidates that were out there. But in my opinion, I think Martindale is the most ready to contribute now, and we understand how much talent's on that Michigan team. So I think it worked out.
Absolutely. We got one more topic, but with you, Kevin. But before we do that, quick reminder that when you're doing your shopping on Amazon, as many of us do from time to time, the link in every video in every description section at the Voice of College Football Network is going to have an Amazon link. Click that if you're already doing shopping on Amazon. And then Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, gets a little kickback. We can continue doing these shows and bringing you the content that we do. So we appreciate everybody doing that. If they like Amazon, if you don't, doesn't matter. Just ignore this part. But we do appreciate those who do that. So I want to get your NFL perspective on this. So Michigan has entered the NFL Combine, and we have a grand total of 18 people, 18 athletes that are doing that. So obviously you've got the natural comeback is going to be, well, you got a lot of 23-year-olds, 22-year-olds or whatever, but is this something we're going to see more of now that NIL is a thing, now that transfer portal is a thing and people are staying longer? Or do you think this is just a temporary thing with so many people getting eligibility with the COVID year and stuff?
I think it's probably both. I think we're going to see an uptick in it, but I do think the COVID year had a huge impact on everything. And obviously it has had that trickle down effect into the draft classes across the league and how they're viewed. But I think that with the NIL, we're going to start to see an uptick in a lot of different things. And I mean, what Jim Harbaugh said, he said around 20 guys were going to go anyway, and they get 18. So he was not wrong. He was not lying when he said that. And with the talent level they had, I'm not shocked at all that all these guys got these invites.
We do have a question. We have a couple of questions for you, and then we'll let you go live your life. But let's see here. There is one serious question from our buddy Dependent Fanatic. Let me see if I can find it again. I literally had it. It was about age, and here it is. So should age and crossing over to college give Michigan concern?
I don't think so. I think that, again, the thing with Martindale and his defense is it is a very complex defense, but Michigan has ran this defense with Mike McDonald and with Jesse Minter. So if Martindale was going to a new program and he was going to a school that, had never seen this defense before, had never run this defense before, I think I'd be a bit more concerned of, there's going to be a huge learning curve, because I think for Martindale, he got here for a reason. He's not going to change everything he's done, but obviously he probably talked to Mike McDonald, probably talked to Jesse Minter. Obviously John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh, the Harbaugh brothers, have that connection with him. And even though Martindale's not going to be coaching under Jim here, I still think that their system that they've run in Michigan under McDonald and under Minter and kind of the lasting effects of the Jim Harbaugh era, it will stay with Don Martindale. The age factor, I don't think is concerning to me. I think that Martindale, the main reason he took the Michigan job is because he thought it was an awesome opportunity, and the talent level that Michigan has on defense, plus the fact that, again, all the coordinator positions dried up pretty quickly within the league. I think it's a great fit. I don't think age and the college bridge from the NFL is going to do a bunch in terms of what happens there.
Got it. Makes sense, and I agree. And then we also had, what is in that fish tank?
we got a couple guppies up there. I have to figure out what I'm doing with the walls here, but I got 2 guppies in that tank. I used to be 3. One of them passed away, unfortunately. It was Edgar Allan and Poe, so what my viewers on Locked On Ravens named them. But now we only have Edgar and Allan. So we might get a Poe Jr. in there at some point, but we got 2 little guppies in there. So I thought it would be a nice little aesthetic we got going on. Well, wrong side. There we go. It's fish tank.
Love it. And of course, you've gotten some compliments here
from
our community. Yes, and we appreciate you, Kevin, for stopping by. So I definitely want to make sure you get the floor for a final thought, if you want to give a final thought, and of course, where can people find you all over the internet?
Yeah, I think Michigan's going to have a really good year. I think they have a good shot to repeat here as champions. I know it's been, everybody's excited for what they did, and it was well deserved. But I think Michigan has a shot here, especially with Don Martindale as their coordinator. For terms of me and my work, you can find me on the Locked On Ravens podcast. We're 5 days a week Ravens, so we talk about everything. If the Ravens end up drafting a Blake Corum, or maybe they go J.J. McCarthy, I don't know. They don't need a quarterback with Lamar. But of course, you can find me over there, YouTube, audio form. We're 5 days a week plus bonus content. Also, I'm writing over at the Ravens Wire, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChaosStriker34. So if any social media, if the Ravens do draft a Michigan guy, I'll be spamming those Michigan highlights. I'll be previewing a couple of those Michigan guys as well, especially Blake being a Maryland guy. So I'm excited to see how the Michigan draft class goes this year, and of course, Michigan's year this upcoming season.
Love it. Thank you for that, Kevin. And I know for a fact that you've gotten at least a couple more followers from our viewership.
I appreciate that. I appreciate all the followers and subscriptions.
So there you have it. So everybody follow Kevin's work all over Ravens Wire and Locked On Ravens. And if you haven't followed him on Twix yet, we've got the link a couple of times to do that. Kevin, thanks for coming by Michigan Wolverines Live.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Bye.
All right. So we appreciate that. Wow, great guest. Love having a great guest here. We try to bring on quality people here at the Voice of College Football, Big J journalism here at the Voice of College Football. Couple of things I want to point out, and then we're going to go to our next topic. Thank you, Moose. Great job. Great caller. Thank you, Kevin. Let's run it back. Smash. Absolutely. Let's see. Repeat. Absolutely. Let's go for another natty. Why not? Michigan's running a championship defense back. Okay, with very few who've left that defense from last year. The offense, yeah, it's going to be younger. But the amount of talent on that offense is going to be good. That is a very talented offense and a lot of hungry players, hungry Wolverines that are ready to eat. And hell yes, thank you, Chris. I think we have somebody who's giving a tribute to Chris Farley there. We love that. Rest in peace. Okay. So a couple of things. Obviously, we've reminded people already to hit the Amazon link. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. Other things that we've got our merch store. So, we know that Valentine's Day is obviously tomorrow, but St. Patrick's Day is coming up. Some of this stuff has got some green in it. If you don't have anything with any green in it, you might want to consider some of the Michigan football, the Voice of College Football. There we go. So we've got kind of the Rose Bowl shirt, top 25 that actually makes sense. Got a pint glass, got a hoodie, dog bowl, and so on. So lots of good stuff there. And then, of course, Voice of College Football as a whole, tons of merchandise, stuff for the whole family, stuff for the kids, stuff for that special someone in your life. All kinds of things here at Voice of College Football, and strongly recommend everybody check that out. Get yourself some merch. We have some new channels here. The SEC channel at the Voice of College Football. Here's the link to that, and the Big 12 channel right here. So definitely check that out. Also, coming up next, we've got Oregon Ducks Live at 10:15 p.m. Eastern with Exploring with Ben and a cast of characters that you can check out and learn about. The only other team in the Big Ten to beat Ohio State in the last 3 years. That's right, folks. Oregon is joining a very exclusive club and it went from 1 and now it's 2. 2 teams in the Big Ten who have beat Ohio State in the last 3 years. It was a very lonely club, so I'm glad that we have a little bit of a companionship there with the Oregon Ducks. So join that show at 10:15 p.m. Eastern. Next up, we're going to talk about the rest, at least the one staffer that we're hearing is near completion. So Greg Scruggs, who has been with Luke Fickell now for a couple of years with Cincinnati, as well as, of course, the Wisconsin Badgers. Did spend a year at the New York Jets, kind of in between those, but did join Luke Fickell and his staff at Wisconsin. Now is coming to, allegedly, the deal is not finalized as of right now, but is coming to Michigan. This is huge for a couple of reasons. He's a great recruiter, right? Was able to recruit, defensive players that helped get Cincinnati to be in the playoffs. Cincinnati in the playoffs? It happened. And I think a big part of that reason was Greg Scruggs and his recruiting. So congratulations. A couple of days ago, it was like drop everything, hit the panic button. And then Michigan, Sharon Moore goes and hires one of the most experienced, defensive coordinators on the planet who knows the Raven system because he ran the Raven system. And he was the sensei for our 2 very successful last DCs, Mike McDonald and Jesse Minner. And I believe he's going to continue the success that Michigan has been having on defense. With this hire here, we shore up the defensive line, which really, let's be honest, some of these players like the Mason Grahams of the world, they need that little bit of motivation, but let's be real. They're already pretty damn good. What I'm thinking about is how the depth and the recruiting that comes after them can now be coached up at the highest level with Greg Scruggs. So coming up next, linebackers coach and secondary coach. So they need to hire those. Now, I will say that there is, of course, the possibility that Wink Don Martindale himself coaches the linebackers. He is a former linebackers coach, as we talked about at the Ravens. That is an option, right? There have been defensive coordinators that also coach a position group. Same with offensive coordinators. So he might take that himself, or he has, I think, enough of an extensive coaching tree that he could probably find a couple of good people for these positions. So I think he's going to be trusted to be the head coach of the defense. And Sharon Moore and Kurt Campbell will focus more, I think, on offense. So as far as I'm concerned, I think Michigan's pretty set at this point. Hire these 2, you're good to go. And so I think Michigan's in a really good position to be successful on defense. I think Kurt Campbell was the right hire at offensive coordinator. He's called plays before. He is quarterback coach. He knows these quarterbacks. And he's going to run a lot. I mean, he said himself, yeah, he's a quarterbacks coach, but he also loves the run because then it sets up his quarterbacks for success. So don't expect that all of a sudden Michigan's going to turn into Ohio State and be ridiculously pass happy. There's still going to be a lot of running, but I do think you'll see Kurt Campbell design some routes and some things that you haven't seen yet to showcase his quarterbacks that he's been coaching up. Let's take a look at the comments here. We got some interesting comments. Okay. Let's see here. Need to see a quarterback before I believe that. Well, Daves, there's a quarterback named Alex Orji that I recommend you look at the film on. And I'm actually not saying this in a condescending way because a lot of people haven't watched the film on Alex Orji from high school, the spring game where he made some passes. The guy can pass. Now, his completion percentage is low, and there's no denying that. But if you can just get it up to Cade level in the 60s, like if you can get it up to the 60s at passing, his running ability is like Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe doesn't need to be a perfect passer because he can be the top rusher on the entire team every game if he wanted to be. And I think Alex Orji will be the same. Now, you don't want to sleep on Jaden Denegal either. Those two are going to go at it in the quarterback battle. And from what I'm hearing, you also can't completely count out Jaden Davis. Now, I don't think – I mean, Jaden Davis would have to have an unreal spring and fall camp. But if you start hearing that Jaden Davis is up there and he's hanging with them and he's starting to win practices and things, don't be completely shocked if he's in the mix. But I think it's going to be game one, Alex Orji. He's been put in the position. He's played in the largest games we've had this year, this past season. And it just seems like he's being kind of positioned to take over, kind of like JJ was in 2021 when he was sprinkled in. Cade McNamara was the starter. QB isn't everything in college. Look at OSU. Well, OSU was blessed with 3 amazing quarterbacks in a row. Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, Justin Fields, and CJ Stroud, who's now lighting it up to the point where he took a trash franchise to the playoffs. Really, really good player. Then they got midcord. And, Ryan Day with midcord, they kind of were attached at the hip there, and midcord's father, was part of that whole arrangement. Where it seems like they ran off Quinn Ewers because McCord had to get his reps in. He had to play. They also passed on JJ McCarthy in favor of McCord. So, it's kind of their fault because they could have had JJ. And there's even a lot of Buckeyes that I trust that have said that was the wrong decision. But hindsight's 2020. And I do understand that McCord played with Marvin Harrison Jr. in high school. I totally understand that. There you go. So there you go. There's your maize and blue comment there. OSU will run more, but it's not like they weren't running with Henderson and Chip Trayanum and some of those players. It's not like they didn't do that at all, right? We will beat OSU and embarrass them again. I hope so, Chris. I think Ohio State, you can expect them to throw the entire kitchen sink at Michigan. It's going to be at Columbus. If Ryan Day loses that game, he will be probably fired. And that, to me, it just blows my mind. Like, he might go 10-2 or 11-1 and get fired. Like, it absolutely kills me. Yeah. I mean, recruiting does, don't get me wrong, Moose. Recruiting does matter. But so does coaching and development. And all I've been saying to Darrell and anybody else who's been talking about star ratings is, You can't only rely on that. That's all I've said. And I think it's maybe started to sink in with them that, these are data points. Recruiting is a data point. 247 is a data point. Star ratings, it's a data point. But also coaching, experience, it's all data points as well. Let's see. Absolutely playoffs. Playoffs? Yes, playoffs. 12 team. Michigan can sneak in at 10-2. It's possible. Oh, wow. Hire Charles Woodson. Yes, please. That would be amazing. But is he willing to do that? There were people saying hire Tom Brady. Well, that's not going to happen because he just got a $300 million contract with Fox Sports. But maybe, so Charles Woodson kind of has this one-off thing with Big Noon Kickoff, but it's not every week. He's got his whiskey and wine business, which is doing very well. But he could, it's possible. Will Sharon Moore pick up the phone and make it happen? Yeah, see, that's probably the case there. Oh, it seems like we've got some Buckeyes in rare form today. You know what, though? We love it. We love the back and forth. We love the viewership because the more Buckeyes that come in here, you know what that means? That means more Wolverines have to come in to combat it. And then I get ratings. So we love the Buckeyes here. We love the Buckeyes. We love the Wolverines. We love everybody. And just keep bringing people in. Bring your other Buckeyes in and troll our chat. Go ahead. As long as you don't do personal attacks, it's fair game. No personal attacks, no racism, sexism, or politics, and you're welcome to say whatever, otherwise, as long as it's football related, team related, you're good. Keep calling him a running back. Keep calling him that. I wish, Mike, but to install a triple option, you have to do a lot in terms of personnel, in terms of changes. We don't have the personnel for triple option. We do have the personnel to run option plays, though. And, they've done that with RPOs. I would expect the amount of RPOs to go up. I would expect a little bit more zone read and kind of read option with Orji. But yeah, to install a complete triple option would be not a good idea. Moose thinks it's going to be Denegal. So are you a Buckeye? So you're saying, okay. So if this is a Buckeye quote, now just remember, your coach, third base Ryan Day, said we're going to hang 100 on Michigan. Now I think that actually Ryan Day might be correct because between 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, they might hit 100 points combined for all 4 years. It's possible they could get there. But in 1 year, no, not at all. Not with the defense that Michigan has, and not with the shaky offensive situation, the O-line situation. You guys just got the Alabama center who can't snap a ball. Now, do I think that they'll coach that out of him? Maybe. I would expect that he transfers to guard because if he can't snap the ball at Ohio State, that's a problem. The quarterback also seems very mid. He was going to lose his job at Kansas State, and you guys think he's the second coming? I don't know about that. I would expect Air Nolan or Julian Sayin to take over by the end of the year, actually. Maybe Devin Brown. Let's see. Hey, despite the trolling, we appreciate that. you want to troll and then you're going to hit the subscribe button, come on down. You're the next contestant on Michigan Wolverines Live. Let's see. Go blue. Chris. First of all, I don't think I've seen you before, so I'm going to do something that we do here at the Voice of College Football. Even though you're trolling the crap out of us in chat, I got to do this. This is an official. Chris, welcome to the Voice of College Football. Sorry you had to wait a couple minutes for that. Let's see here. So I'm sure there will be a very hilarious clip that the Buckeyes will make of that little shutdown there. But that, shit happens sometimes and technology dies. So I'm back. Let's see. Sharon was born beating OSU. Absolutely. Yep. Sorry about that, guys. But we were wrapping up the show anyway. Not true. We actually get pretty solid viewership for our team channel compared to most of the shows. Like, I think we're up there with the top, actually. But we thank you for coming by. Just for a bit, but I came back. Show the Ryan Day penguin dance. I don't know if I want to break the computer again. I just got it back up and running. Let's see. Am I going to get shut down if I show this? Okay. Yes, never surrender. That's right. There it is. There he is. What we have here is third base Ryan Day getting really excited with his team. And I mean, look, I'm going to say this about Ryan Day, actually. I'm going to get serious for a second. I think that there's nothing wrong with showing emotion. Right? I actually think that showing emotion is the hallmark of somebody who's confident in themselves and isn't afraid to show their feelings, right? So when Ryan Day kind of got really fired up at the Notre Dame game, I was fine with that. I did think it was a little ridiculous that he seemed like he wanted to know where Lou Holtz was right now, in a manner of speaking that sounded like he might want to fight him. Because I don't think he was saying, I wonder if Lou Holtz is in Illinois right now or Indiana. I don't think that's what he meant by, I wonder where Lou Holtz is right now. But, that's just me. But, then Sharon Moore was also, gave a ton of emotion. And I thought that was amazing. I thought that was just a showcase of not just him, but like Blake Corum behind him, supporting him. These players like really love Jim Harbaugh and Sharon Moore, and he loves them back. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. And the culture, like, do you understand how good of a head coach you have to be to not coach and still make it to the Big Ten championship and beat Ohio State, even though you didn't coach for 6 games? Do you know how good you have to be and how good a culture you have to have? I'm just saying. Just saying. National champions. Just saying. Okay. Well, looks like I'm doing a little bit better on battery and everything else, but just don't want to risk it. So I'm gonna say farewell now. I'm gonna let my laptop charge up. Coming up next, Oregon Ducks Live. As I said before, Oregon is now in a very small group of people who have beat Ohio State in the last 3 years in the Big Ten. It used to be just Michigan. Now it's Michigan and Oregon. Both have in the last 3 years beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. And here, Oregon Ducks Live. Here's the link. So no excuses. Head straight on over there. Give them a like. Tell them John sent you. And go enjoy some Oregon Ducks content in about an hour. Well, everybody, appreciate you hanging in with me. Great guest. Obviously, we had a little bit of a hiccup there. So thanks for bearing with me all the way to the end. We still have actually not bad viewership at the moment. So thank you for coming by and hitting the like button, supporting us in any way that you can, whether it's liking or subscribing, or if you want to give a super chat. Any of those things are extremely appreciated. Amazon link, etc. Those things are extremely appreciated, not just by me, but by the guy who runs all of this and owns all of this, Mark Rogers, voice of college football, and Joey Foster, our network manager. It takes a village here. We got some great people behind us and helping us out. So really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. We've got Go Blue. I'm not going to say this one, but Steven, thanks for the viewership and thanks for the participation in chat. Same thing with Chris. Thanks for the viewership. Thank you for the participation. I may disagree with everything you say, but I support your right to say it. And that's what we believe in here at the Voice of College Football. All right. So Oregon Ducks Live. We will see you. So my next show is going to be next Tuesday. We also, as a reminder, we have the Big Ten Live show with Mark Rogers, which is going to be on Friday night. So let me just fix this banner real quick. And so the next show that is going to happen in terms of the general family of shows that we do in terms of Big Ten. The Big Ten Live show is now Fridays at 7 p.m. So what everybody can do, they can pick up the phone and they can call Mark Rogers, voice of college football, and dial 888-99-RILEY. That's right, folks. Just remember that, 888-99-RILEY, and then you'll be able to call Mark and Tim Prangley as they do the Big Ten Live show. No Ocho on Monday. My next show is going to be same time next week for Michigan Wolverines Live. All right, everybody. You can follow me on Twix at John Diadamo. Like I said, our guest today was Kevin from the Ravens Wire and Locked On Ravens. Please follow him and join us for Oregon Ducks Live next in about an hour. And until next time, go Blue. And thanks for joining us.